What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and I just got back from the Fort Worth Regional this last weekend. We played this afternoon, which was Saturday, and this is like Saturday night going into Sunday, and I just wanted to do this deck profile while everything was sort of fresh on my mind. I did make top 8 with Rikka, which is super cool. I think the deck is just absolutely amazing. We did win the mat, so I'll try to show that right here. This awesome new, I don't know if you guys can hear me past the mat, but yeah, this new mat is absolutely awesome. Glad we were able to win it. And yeah, the deck performed just as well as it had in testing, essentially. I'd been testing it for about 2 weeks going into this event for new format. And I knew pretty early on, like, yeah, I think Rikka is actually very, very good. And the testing definitely came through. I'll have my matchups on the screen here to talk about them briefly. I played 4 Sprite, which I think was good. Like, I actually wasn't expecting as many Sprite and Tier that were actually in the room. I was really impressed that everyone was able to like pick up the cards so quickly. And so I expected things more like Math Mech and even this Rikka deck to an extent. But really, it was like me and one other guy in the room that I knew who was playing Rikka. And then I don't know if anyone else was playing it at all. So there were definitely quite a few Math Mech, which I expected a lot of, but I only played 1, which is fine by me because my list is definitely not really prepared for the Math Mech matchup. It's definitely more geared towards Sprite and Tier Element, which I did happen to play a lot of Sprite, which worked out to an extent, but there's only so much you can prepare for that deck because its first turn board is just insane. But yeah, for the rounds, most notable is the 4 Sprite I played, and like the Pure Punk I played was tough, and last round I actually played Mystic Mind Burn, which was horrendous. But there's something that I'm going to talk about in this list that is so good for Rikka when it's involving Mystic Mind. So yeah. You know, before we get into this deck profile, just letting you guys know, Discord link down below, along with all of our other social media links. And also, if you do enjoy this Yu-Gi-Oh content, I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So again, if you like this profile or the explanations or the Rikka deck, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps me out in what I do here on the channel. Without further ado, let's hop into this Rikka deck profile. Alright guys, so here we have the Rikka deck. I'm going to go over the 40 card main deck, the extra deck, and the side deck, and sort of how it related to my rounds earlier today, and what sort of led me to getting a top 8 finish at the regional with this super awesome deck. Yeah, the deck, you can play it a bunch of different ways. Like, you can play it with Therions, or you can go more of like the mid-range hand trap strategy, which is sort of what I leaned into. I'm playing a much larger Rikka package than many people were, and I'm not playing any Therions. So with that in mind, let's get into the 40 card main deck. All right, so starting off, we have the 3 Rikka Petal, and this is essentially just like your best starter. Like, if you're used to seeing this deck potentially, or you have some experience with it, this already looks like a lot of Rikka Petal. And I was on 2 for a long time testing the deck, but I actually upped it to 3 because she is just your best starter, and she's the one I want to open the most because you want to see her and the field spell together. And like the most optimal hands, you open Petal and like Unexpected Die, and you can do full combo with a negate. And Petal was really good to make sure you had her and you got her in rotation quickly, because then she could be follow-up, which was super, super good for your follow-up turns. And yeah, Petal was something I really liked at 3, but it did mean we had to like cut normal summons in other areas, so I'll explain that as we get there as well. If you don't know what she does, essentially, she can just add a Rikka monster from your deck to your hand, or send it from deck to grave, but that almost never comes up unless you get drolled. And then also during your opponent's end phase, if you control no monsters or all monsters you control are plants, you can special summon her from your graveyard, which just means she's like Treeborn Frog and a Stratos, which is actually an insane combination. Next up, we have the 3 Rikka Princess, a new card out of Power of the Elements. And Rikka got 2 new cards, and the reason for this deck's success isn't like so heavily hinged on one of them, it's both of them together, just making the deck flow so like, it has a lot of synergy now, and it actually does what it should have always done. And Princess is one of the reasons for that. So this card is bonkers by every sense of the word. So during the main phase, you can just special summon her as just a free extender. And that's really good for times where your normal summon gets interrupted, and you can extend with this for tributes through a Gamma, and being able to special is really good for the Glamour play when you're searching Primula and Princess. The real effect this card has is the fact that if she's in hand or graveyard and you control a Rikka monster, you can tribute a plant monster you control, shuffle her into the deck as cost from your hand or grave, and negate that effect. And it's insane. It negated like a few Nibirus today, where my opponent thought like Nibiru was going to win them the game, and you just princess them, and they're like, yo, what just happened? This negated a couple of just like really important effects, and more importantly, it was tributing my opponent's cards because of a card I'll explain later. But yeah, 3 of this also seems like a lot. I've seen some people on 2, and when I go into side decking, when I'm going second, I usually side one of these out. I side out some engine for some more go second cards, but yeah, 3 of this is something I want to see in my main deck because the goal is to get to like low side combo and then have Princess as a negate. So we're on 3 Rikka Princess, 2 Primula, and this card is also very good, but essentially she's here just for the glamour combo with Princess. By herself, she's just a normal summon, which is fine if you draw field spell or like you just need to be able to resolve a Mudon. So Primula was definitely as good as she needed to be. I think it's really hard to justify playing 1 because you need her in deck to do the tribute with glamour to search 2, which comes up for like breaking boards, but also just making Strenna more often. But Primula also, if you draw her in a hand with already too many normal summons, it is tough. So this ratio is something that could change, but I think 2 Primula is pretty standard. But yeah, I'm on a much larger Rikka package than some of these lists are. Just because Rikka was like the backbone I was going for. I always could trust that the Rikka engine was going to do something, even if like my Loci and Sun Avalon plays got hand trapped, you know, beyond belief. So the Rikka engine is just like a super strong backbone for the deck. Then we have 2 Mudon, which is just one of the best ones because she's truly like an Earth Machine extender, similar to like Dozer that attributes an Earth Machine monster to do stuff. In the same vein, you just tribute a plant monster to special summon her from your hand, and then she searches a Rikka spell or trap, which is good because it means she is easy access to the new field spell. Also, the way she comes out, you know, means you contribute your opponent's monsters to summon her. She's just a free extender. Like you can get hand trapped on your main plays and then just tribute for Mudon, get field spell, and then you get like 2 or 3 interrupts through interruptions, which is great. And yeah, I just wanted to play more of her than 1 because opening her was great when you got hand trapped. But then we do play only 1 Snowdrop, and that's because like her form of extending, you need her plus another plant monster in your hand. Like Mudon just does it for free, she just brings herself out, but Snowdrop needs other cards to be good, so wanted to see her less. She is a super important card for the deck because she allows you to make Teardrop on your end board, and also she's an insane extender. Like I had times where I would just like normal Loci, go Dryas, they'd Ash, or they'd more likely Imperm or Effect Veiler because you'd rather just Ash the Sowing if you had it. And then I would just like tribute it for Snowdrop and then special Loci from my hand or like a Lone Fire, go get the other one and do the entire play again. And like she just had she's another way to get multiple normal summons out of your hand in a single turn. And she's honestly just a mandatory 1-up, but I wouldn't personally play more than 1. But yeah, she was fantastic all weekend, and that is 11 Rikka monsters, I believe. 3 Rikka Konkon, which is, you know, an interesting name change. I really liked Arrival. I feel like this one's just sort of awkward to say. But this is the second card the deck got in Power of the Elements, which is absolutely broken. This is probably what most people would attribute the deck's success to, although the way this works with Princess entirely is just so insane. So the first thing to note about this card is if you control a Rikka monster, you can just set a Rikka spell or trap directly from your deck, which is huge because it means you can make your board and then set sheet, which is bonkers. But the best thing about this card, well, I don't even know if this is the best thing. I mean, that first effect's really good, but the most powerful thing about this card is the fact that if you attribute a plant monster you control to activate a Rikka card or effect, you contribute your opponent's monsters instead, essentially. And that is insane because it means essentially you can activate this card and then activate something like Glamour and just tribute your opponent's monster as cost and then get your 2 searches. And what that means is that this deck, because I'm running 3 field spell, its engine can actually play through boards quite nicely. And that's sort of what happened against the Sprite deck, is like even though that deck is putting up an insane board, my engine without like just hand traps or go second cards can actually break through things, which is very, very nice. And this field spell was so ridiculous all event. It just won me so many games. I mean, it's like one of the main interrupts for the deck. Tributing your opponent's things to get extra benefits off tributing them is such a broken mechanic. Like my opponents would have like Baron face up or a math mech negate with diameter, and then I just tribute their stuff for cost. They can't even negate, they lose their negate, and I get my effects. It's so disgusting. But that's why I played 3 field spell. Originally I was on 2, but like I want to see this card going second to try and break a board essentially, so I upped it to 3, and me seeing it more often was very nice. I'm super happy I played 3 of this card. 3 Rikka Glamour. This card is just one of the best starters in the game. So it's just like a Rhoda. You just add a Rikka monster from your deck to your hand, which is huge. Like a Rhoda is good because it essentially means you have 3 additional copies of any single Rikka monsters. Means you have like 4 Snowdrops, 5 Mudons, 6 Petal, you know, whichever one you need to see. But the broken thing about this card is that you contribute a monster and then you get an additional search of the same level of the Rikka you added, but a different name. So like, imagine a card like Machina Redeployment where you discard a card to search 2. Like, searching 2 off a Rhoda is insane. But this one searches 2 by like tributing your opponent's stuff if you have the field spell. So like, something that happened for me today was I had the field spell face up, my opponent had Baron, and I just activated Glamour, tributed their Baron to search 2 monsters. And that's disgusting. That is so ridiculously broken. Glamour is just an important 3-of. It is a starter, and it also is a board breaker, and it's truly good. The last card in the Rikka engine is 1 Rikka Sheet. This is your main interrupt, like, go first. If you already opened Glamour, you want to open either Konkon or Glamour, like one of them, so that you can see every Rikka spell and trap in one turn. Because setting Sheet on your first turn is just the Sprite Destroyer. They just go like Diva effect, special Diva, and you just tribute Diva to take Diva, and they have to have starter, which means like Sheet Ash is game, and usually Sheet Princess is game, Sheet plus anything is game against Sprite. It is very hard to play through this card. It's like 2 interrupts in one, but they're just very hard interrupts. They're not like just a negate. You are removing 2 bodies from their board. We're getting rid of 2 bodies entirely from their possession, and that makes Sheet actually insane. I believe that's 18 Rikka card, which is a very large Rikka engine. It means over half the deck's Rikka. Or not over half the deck, but close to half the deck's Rikka. Now on to the Sun Avalon stuff. So I played 2 Loci, which might seem weird. I think 2 is like a pretty fine number. But like we had to cut normal summons in other places, like I said, because I wanted to play 3 Petal, because Petal is just the best. And Loci is not actually a normal summon I want to open, and I think that'll make more sense as I show the rest of the Sun Avalon package. But yes, 2 Loci, which is just 1 Loci uninterrupted by himself, is just everything you want in your entire deck. He is absolutely insane what this card can do. And then we have the 1 Twin, which of course this is like one of the only bricks in the deck. But if you open this in like Unexpected Die, which is one of the most important cards in the engine, it's like actually not bad. And Twin is actually a good way for 1 monster to turn into 2 monsters. Like, I would summon this off of Jasmine sometimes, or seeing it with your Snowdrop would be pretty good. And I also had a couple times where Primula could target this, make it level 4, and I can make Strenna that way. So Twin has some nice synergies. Then we have the 1 Sowing, which is like, I've seen some people play 2 of this, but I minimized my other packages because I played such a heftier Rikka package, because again, that engine's the backbone, and it sort of makes my deck, like I know my deck's going to do exactly what it wants to do when the Rikka engine's going off, and not do a bunch of like extra stuff that can fall prey to like even more hand traps, right? So just 1 Sowing. This card's not bad to draw in some situations, but I didn't want to play 2 because I'd rather see any other card and just search it for free. I tested 2 Sowing for a while, but yeah, I think 1 is fine. And the most important card in the engine is definitely Unexpected Die. Like, the ideal opening, or like the best opening, is Petal plus Die, like going first, because it's very hard for your opponent to do anything to it, because Petal searches a free interrupt, and then you can just Loci combo. Sort of like the Brave engine, right? But yeah, Unexpected Die is infinitely better going second. It's just full combo without a normal summon, which is why I played 3 of it and then only 2 of the normal monsters. I don't really want to draw Loci as much. You need 2 in your deck, mandatory, but I wanted to draw Unexpected Die. So yeah, that is the Sun Avalon package, which is a pretty small package, but it accesses every single card in your deck. Next up, for some cards that sort of work with both engines, we have the 2 Lone Fire Blossom. Again, why 2 Lone Fire is essentially, again, I had to cut down on normal summons in other places to play the 3rd Petal, so instead of like 3 Lone Fire and 2 Petal, I decided 3 Petal because if I draw her in Field Spell, I know I'm getting 2 to 3 interrupts bare minimum, even through hand traps potentially. But Lone Fire, sometimes this gets ashed and you get nothing, so I decided that it'd be better to see Petal than Lone Fire, and then getting Petal in rotation guaranteed even through hand traps is very good. So Lone Fire was like a riskier card, and that's why I dropped it down to 2. But this card is insane. Being able to go through multiple normal summons with Petal into Snowdrop as well is very nice to use the Lone Fires you draw anyways. And this card won me a couple games because it is so fragile, but I'll get more into that later. But yeah, this can essentially be more copies of Loci. It can be your Rikka engine. It's very nice to hit off Dance Peony because it instantly gets around the restriction that the monster summoned can't be linked off, but Lone Fire was insane, and I liked the ratio mostly because I am still on just 3 Petal. Like, I think Petal's the normal summon I really wanted to max on, especially because I'm playing 3 Field Spell. And then the most broken one-ofs in the deck, we have the 1-for-1, which was absolutely insane. It's unexpected die, but it can access either of your important level 1s, so that's really good. And then Called by the Grave, which was, this card needs to be banned, guys. Like, anytime I drew this, it just decided the game, essentially. The games where I drew this card and resolved it, it was so broken, it would just win me the game, and if my opponent drew it, they would win the game. Like, that's how polarizing this card is. Like, I'm surprised it's still here. But yeah. Obviously, you have to play the Called by the Grave. You draw it and Loci, and they better... You put them on have 2 hand traps or the game's over. Now, on to the hand traps in the deck, and we were able to fit 10 flex spots, or really, I'll say 11 because driver's in here. So we were able to fit like 10 go second cards and a driver. So that's one good thing about this deck and taking out like the Therion cards and minimizing some of the other packages, is that I'm able to fit more hand traps rather than like the 5-card Therion package. And then most importantly, play 40 cards, which is important for side decking. But on to the hand traps, we have the most important man of the hour, 3 Psyframe Gear Gamma, and of course his friend Driver. But yeah, Gamma was absolutely phenomenal. He's so insane this format because he's a very hard interruption versus some sprite hands. He can hit a lot of different things. More importantly, like in your deck going first, you have things like 1-for-1, you have things like Lone Fire Blossom, Unexpected Die. These are all things you can Gamma if they Ash you. And then you have, not only that, like a lot of times you can just activate a field spell and your opponent will be forced to like use a Toad Negate or something on it. And you can like Gamma that, or same thing with Glamour. You have a lot of ways to abuse Gamma when you're going first. And that's sort of one of my games for sure I won because I opened Gamma, Ash, Imperm, Dark Ruler, and Lone Fire Blossom, and my opponent's playing Sprite going second, and I knew that me using Gamma on his turn would give me a higher chance to like stop him from making a play, but I decided to use like Ash and Imperm to stop his board, and then I Dark Ruler whatever else he could make, and then I normal summon the Lone Fire, used this effect, my opponent Ash, and I was able to use Gamma from hand, which instantly won me that game. Allowing Lone Fire to go through, and it was about making sure I didn't use this Gamma needlessly on my opponent's turn because I knew my other interrupts would be able to stop what they were going for. And yeah, Gamma was a phenomenal card all weekend. And then we have 3 Infinite Impermanents, and this was sort of a call for Winda just in case. I only played 1 Tier Element and they didn't summon Winda 1 time, so it didn't come up, thankfully, but Imperm was a good interrupt. It wasn't like the most amazing card, but it wasn't bad, The thing about Gamma and Imperm is they're both great 6th cards, which was something I really wanted out of my hand trap lineup. But yeah, Imperm was more than fine. And then we had 2 Ash Blossom, which was not terrible, actually. I expected Ash to be way less good than she was. And 2 Ghost Ogre, which was pretty insane. Ghost Ogre was phenomenal. It's really good versus Sprite matchup, and of course I did play 4 Sprites, so that's nice. It was just, this was overperforming, and Ash overperformed in the sense that I didn't expect her to be that great, but if you open Ash plus like Gamma, you almost always just beat Sprite's first turn. And Ash was really good versus like the dumb Mystic Mind Burn deck I played, which, no hate to the guy, he seemed pretty cool, but obviously no one wants to play against Mystic Mind. But yeah, Ash was pretty good versus that, and she was okay versus the Math Mech deck as well. So we ran 10 hand traps going second, which was more than enough. I didn't want to brick on hand traps, so I was fine with how much engine I played as opposed to hand traps. But yeah, so 40 card list. On to the extra deck. We have the 3 Sun Avalon Dryas. This is like your main starter for your low side combo. You really want this to resolve and just go through your main plays, which I had a Thrasher to summon off the Dryas, and of course a Healer to gain 300 life points, and search off Jasmine. One thing I'm pretty sure is it's probably just better to play 2 Healers, because Healer effect isn't once per turn, I'm 99% sure. So I think isn't it just better to like play 2 Healer and then gain twice? I don't know. I've been on this ratio because I was like, I don't want to play 2 healer, but then I'm thinking about it, why is this not just 2 healers? I'm not quite sure. Thrasher healer, it didn't really matter. All it would be is like an extra 300 life points, so. You have to play these though, for your main combo. 1 Jasmine, which a lot of people, every time they look at my list, they're confused by. I'm not playing like the Mardell, I'm not playing the Laurel, I'm never going for double Jasmine. Jasmine is just here to extend and help me see my Rikka engine off of my Sun Avalon cards. Like the Sun Avalon stuff just gets you to your Rikka stuff plus some, which is what's really good about the engine. And Jasmine is a very important part of that. She is a cracked card for sure, and everything in my extra deck got made, and of course Jasmine's part of main combo, so you're making her more often than normal. And then we have 1 Malias, which is very good because it's essentially just makes a Link 2 into a Link 4. And your Link 4 is Bangalancer, and Bangalancer was actually insane, just because, I mean, it's not like he did anything too crazy. In fact, I don't even think I actually resolved his effect to bounce all day. But making him means, like, his effect to special summon from Graveyard was super good because it pushed for game on my follow-up turns, and that was really nice. Because they always had the Dark Ruler to like stop my board, so he was never going to resolve that way, but him coming back was super good, so him being like a form of follow-up as well. And then last link in the deck is 1 Dance Peony, which this card's insane because it reminds me a lot of Verte Anaconda. Essentially, you get stopped on your plays, and you're like, oh no, I've been hand trapped twice and my hand couldn't play through it. And you make Dance Peony, and sometimes she just mills the nuts. Which is very nice. I made her like 2 or 3 times, and I actually hit less than average. I'd say average, you hit 1 plant off of this. Like 1.3 plants you hit off this a lot when I was just doing like test hands with it. But I missed completely like 2 times, and I think I only hit 1 or 2 plants off this all day. But the theory was still there, and she's still an insane extender. Absolutely ridiculous. I can't believe she does what she says she does. Her level manipulation effect is also very relevant. It comes up almost every time I make her. She's absolutely a phenomenal card. And that's it for the links. Then we have 2 Strenna, which is probably the card you make the most outside of Dryas. She is just amazing because she's an add back, and then more importantly, when she's tributed, she can make a rank 5 or higher Xyz with her as a material. And the choices we played were 1 Teardrop, which I don't think you really need 2 of this because I choose to play a different card over the second one, but Teardrop's the one you're making naturally most of the time. Then you have an Alsay. He came up a couple times. Like I remember calling Metabo Globster to win the game by bouncing one of their cards and swinging for game. He comes up and he's like one of your only ways to out back row specifically, so he's definitely better than the second Teardrop, I think. And then 1 Hyperion, which I made all the time. He's an okay negate, you know, he's a negate and destroy, and sometimes you activate spells and equip spells. So he can be a spell negate, which the deck doesn't really have. So yeah, Hyperion was insane. And then that's it for Xyz. The last card I chose to play was the Omega, and I made him once. That hand where I gammaed the Ash on my Lone Fire. I was able to make him and take the last card out of their hand, and of course, Omega is just a pretty good card if you're making it on your own turn, so... Yep, he came up. I still think he could be something else, but I wasn't upset I played Omega. It was also nice in case I got Maximist, if that's relevant. Alright, on to the side deck, and some of the side deck theory I think is interesting for this side deck because it's very different from most that I build, and it'll sort of explain itself as we go along. So, 3, Dark Ruler No More. This was really my only additional go second card in the side deck to side versus like Sprite or Tier or like any monster heavy deck. Like I was just going all in on Dark Ruler plus my hand traps, and that's because there's just no way to side out any more than 4, maybe 5 cards in your deck unless you start siding out hand traps. And at that point it's like, why am I siding out go second cards for go second cards? It doesn't really make sense. So Dark Ruler was super huge all day, and another reason is we're on a 40 card list, which just 100% maximizes the chance to see side deck, which is the reason I like 40 so much. I know a lot of Rikka Therion versions are at more than 40 cards because they have to play that extra package. But me playing the version I am allows me to see my side deck more often, which is huge, and Dark Ruler is a big part of that. This card was cracked. It was cracked like all day for everyone. Like this card was getting activated so much today, which was funny to see. I had multiple opponents have to Dark Ruler my board twice, and it still just does nothing, and I was able to win. Like they had to Dark Ruler me, and then Strenna would bring something out, they had a Dark Ruler again, and I still just had like Sheet, and I already used the Princess, and they just couldn't play past it. So yeah, Dark Ruler was great for me though as well. Just negating Sprite boards and whatnot. Then we have some back row hate. I decided to play 3 Cosmic Cyclone instead of Twin Twister because I felt like I only needed to out sort of the Floodgate cards, and it wasn't worth like hitting 2. I didn't expect a lot of heavy back row outside of like maybe Eldritch. Of course, the back row I ended up playing was actually the Mystic Mine deck, which ran Field Barrier, so Cosmic Cyclone would have come up better there. I never really drew this card against him though, so that didn't happen. But for back row, I decided on the 3 Cosmic and the 1 Feather Duster and the 1 Reboot. So my side deck for Sprite, while I'm talking about it, is I said I can't fit like any more than 4 cards go second. So it was always just Reboot plus 3 Dark Ruler. And Reboot was in case they were siding Deck Devi or some, crazy Floodgate, right? So Reboot was insane. I drew it twice, never got to activate it, but it was definitely there. And then the big thing about this side deck that's weird compared to my other side decks is I sided 7 go first cards. That's just because like going second, I can't fit that many cards, so it left me more room for go first cards. And if you can stop any of their blowout go second cards like Lightning Storm or Feather Duster or Evenly Matched with one of your go first cards, then there's no way, like their engine will never play through your board. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I won the games I went first, so I played 3 Appointer of the Red Lotus, which is just like the best side card, because a lot of people are on Lava Golem and Sphere mode theoretically with all the dueling book testing that's been going on. That's the trend we've been seeing. And Appointer is just nuts versus those cards, and this card was insane for me every time I drew it. So I decided to play 5 of it. So I ran 2 Trap Trick solely for the Appointer of the Red Lotus, and yeah, I saw Appointer naturally once, and I saw it off Trap Tricks once. I actually didn't draw my go first side as much as I wanted to. But I also sided 2 Anti-Spell, which I drew a couple of times, and honestly, this card wasn't good for me all day, and I don't know if I'd play it again in this deck. The problem is this deck loses to Evenly more than it does to a lot of the spells. Like, Dark Ruler really doesn't hurt your deck at all, even though you're ending with like 4 monster negates. Like, you just play around Dark Ruler usually. So this to save you from that was never really relevant. This really only came up for me against the Mystic Mine guy, so I'm glad this was in my side deck, if not just for that matchup, because that matchup is really horrifying, because obviously it's Mystic Mine Burn. But yeah, Anti-Spell just slows that deck down every single turn, and it's just really, really good. So 7 go first cards is pretty wild, but I don't know if Anti-Spell might end up being like Solemn Judgment or something. But yeah, that is it for the side deck, the extra deck, the main deck. Let me know what you guys think down below. It was a really good tournament for me. I had a lot of fun. Obviously, I performed super well with a deck that I was pretty confident in, but I'm glad to see it perform. Obviously, I really love the Rikka deck. I was playing it far before the support. Like, I have a very old deck profile on the channel where I was trying to do some nifty things with Rikka, but honestly, the deck just needed some help. And Konami finally gave it the support it so desperately needed, and the deck was super awesome. The field spell is super unfair. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. This has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.